We live in a world that constantly tells us we need to do more, be more, perform better. In our jobs, in our social lives, even in the bedroom. It's exhausting. And that mindset of performance follows us right into our most intimate moments. Suddenly, instead of actually feeling what's happening, we're thinking, am I doing this right? Is he enjoying it? Does my body look good from this angle? And just like that, we're not really there anymore. We're in our heads. We've left the moment. And in leaving the moment, we leave the magic behind. The truth is, tantric intimacy isn't about how good you are in bed. It's not about technique or impressing someone with your moves. It's about your presence. Your full, embodied, undistracted presence. When you're truly with someone, emotionally, energetically, physically, it's a whole different experience. That's when the walls come down. That's when real connection begins. And ironically, that's when you actually do blow his mind, not because of what you're doing, but because of what you're of being. And look, I get it. It's not always easy to be present. We have so many internal scripts running. We compare ourselves to unrealistic standards. We replay past experiences. We worry about the future. And sometimes we treat intimacy like a performance we have to get right. But that's not where the power is. The power is in your ability to slow down, tune in, and meet him. Not with a checklist, but with curiosity and openness. That kind of presence is magnetic. It creates safety. And in that safety, both of you can explore something deeper than just pleasure. You can explore connection. When you show up with presence, you're not rushing to the goal. You're not trying to create a reaction or force chemistry. You're just meeting the moment as it is. That could mean holding his gaze a little longer. It could mean feeling the weight of your own breath. It could mean simply placing your hand on his chest and feeling his heartbeat without needing to go anywhere from there. In that stillness, so much happens. In that stillness, a man can feel things he's never allowed himself to feel before. And here's the thing. When a man senses that you're not trying to prove yourself to him, that you're not auditioning for his approval, it actually changes the way he shows up too. He relaxes. He drops out of his head. He begins to mirror your energy. Your calmness becomes contagious. And that's when something really beautiful unfolds. You stop trying to impress each other, and you start experiencing each other. Presence also means being present with yourself. It means listening to your body, noticing where you're holding tension, noticing what turns you on, what opens you, what shuts you down. So often, we override our own intuition because we're so focused on how to please someone else. But the irony is, when you actually tune into your experience, when you show up for yourself, you become 10 times more powerful as a lover. Because now you're not giving from a place of depletion or pressure. You're giving from a place of fullness. Tantra teaches that sexual energy is most powerful when it's conscious. And you can't be conscious if you're checked out, if you're racing to a finish line, or if you're stuck in your head worrying about how you look or what he's thinking. You can't fake presence, but when it's real, when you're there, fully, with nothing to prove and nothing to fix, that's when the magic happens. Sometimes, presence is about letting go of the need to know what happens next. You don't need to plan every move. You don't need to control the moment. In fact, the most powerful moments in intimacy often come from complete spontaneity, from surrendering the need to get it right and just feeling what's true in that moment. That's where connection lives. And I want to say this, when you're fully present, even in silence, even in stillness, you're already doing more for him than you realize. You're giving him something most people never give him: permission to be real, to feel safe, to open. You're holding a space where his guard can finally come down. And in that space, he gets to meet you. Not the version of you think he wants, not the polished, curated version, but the raw, grounded, connected version of you. That's unforgettable. That's what he'll carry with him. So the next time you're with him, before you reach for the next thing to do, ask yourself, am I here right now? Breathe, feel your body, look into his eyes, let go of the script, and just be. Because the most powerful thing you can bring to intimacy isn't a technique, it's your presence. And when you give him that, you'll give him something no one else has. Something he won't be able to stop thinking about. That's how you start to blow his mind, without ever needing to perform. Let's talk about something that's often overlooked, but absolutely vital if you want to create that next level connection and blow his mind. Not just in a physical way, but in a deeply emotional and energetic way. You have to activate your sensual energy first. And I want you to hear this clearly. Before you ever even think about touching him, before you light the candles or put on the music or initiate anything at all, your own energy has to be turned on from within. Because here's the truth. When you're turned on by yourself, by your own body, your own presence, your own aliveness, you instantly become magnetic. That's when you stop trying to be sexy and you just are. Most people enter intimacy with the mindset of, what can I do to please him? Or, how can I turn him on? And while generosity is beautiful, when it's coming from a place of self, neglect, or disconnection, it doesn't actually land in the way you think. It might create some physical reaction, sure, but it won't create that unforgettable, soul-shaking, melt his mind kind of connection. Because the real secret is this: he doesn't just want your body, he wants your energy, your aliveness, your presence, your turned-on self. And you can't fake that. You can't just fair act sexy if you're not actually feeling it. You might pull it off for a minute, but the energy's not really there, and deep down you know it. And so does he. That's why activating your sensual energy first is the foundation of this entire experience. It's the thing that changes the entire dynamic. Now, how do you actually do that? How do you go from being in your head, worrying about your to-do list, wondering how you look, into that place of true, embodied sensuality? It starts by slowing down and tuning in. This is not about lighting incense and chanting, if that's not your thing. It's about creating a micro ritual that brings you back into your body. That could mean dimming the lights, putting on music that makes you feel something, or just taking a few deep breaths and placing your hand on your belly or your heart. It could mean gentle movement, swaying, stretching, rolling your shoulders, just to shake off the tension of the day and return to you. Sometimes it's about pleasure that has nothing to do with him. Take a bath. Move in front of the mirror with no agenda. Touch your own skin with curiosity. Ask yourself, what would feel good to me right now? That's it. When you start to ask that question consistently, you begin to create a habit of tuning into your own body instead of outsourcing your pleasure or your confidence to someone else. And look, I get that it can feel weird or uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to being disconnected from your body. But the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. And the more alive you feel within yourself, the more that energy radiates outward, without you having to say a word. That's the part that blows his mind. It's not a trick. It's not about manipulation. It's about you becoming so rooted in your own desire, your own fullness, that it becomes impossible for him not to feel it. Think about it like this. When you walk into a room fully lit up from the inside with a kind of quiet confidence that says, I know my body, I know what I like, and I'm not afraid to feel it. You don't have to chase anything. That kind of energy is rare. That kind of energy pulls people in. And when a man encounters it, it does something to him. It invites him to meet you at a higher level. It tells him, this is a woman who doesn't need me to complete her pleasure. She's already there. But if I'm lucky, she'll let me be part of it. That's the shift. Instead of giving from emptiness, you're inviting him into your already activated space. And here's where it gets really interesting. When you do that, when you come into intimacy already alive, already feeling, you create a ripple effect because your energy gives him a permission to feel, to soften, to drop into his own body. Now he's not just going through the motions. He's actually present. He's engaged. He's feeling you, not just physically, but energetically. And that is the moment when intimacy starts to feel sacred. It's no longer about just getting to the next step. It becomes an experience, a shared state. So don't underestimate the power of turning yourself on first. Don't wait for him to light the spark. You are the spark. You are the current that electrifies the moment. And when you arrive already lit, already full, already in touch with your body and breath and desire, you don't just touch his skin. You touch something deeper. And that, he won't forget. That's where the magic starts. Let me take you into something deceptively simple, but absolutely transformative. When it comes to intimacy, eye contact and breath sensing. I know on the surface it sounds small, basic even, but the truth is, most couples skip this entirely. They go straight to the touch, to the action, to the doing. And yet, the real connection, the kind that stops time and makes the whole experience unforgettable, starts before any of that. It starts with locking eyes. It starts with matching your breath to his. It starts with just being still together. Now, I want you to picture this. You're sitting face to face with him. You haven't even touched yet. There's a pause in the room, like the whole world has gone quiet for a moment. You look into his eyes and stay there. You're not trying to make a sexy face. You're not thinking about how you look. You're just witnessing him and allowing yourself to be witnessed in return. It might feel intense at first. It might feel vulnerable. You might even want to look away. Because, let's be honest, most of us don't get seen like that very often. Most of us keep a layer of distance between ourselves and everyone else, even in our closest relationships. We keep busy. We stay distracted. And we wonder why intimacy feels mechanical, why it doesn't hit as deep as we want it to. This practice breaks that wall. Because when you hold eye contact, not for a second, not as a quick glance, but for real, you're inviting him into something rare. You're saying, I'm here. I'm not hiding. I'm not rushing past this. I see you, and I'm letting you see me too. It's not about staring blankly. It's about being open in your energy, letting whatever's there, love, anticipation, nervousness, excitement, exist in that space between you. That's powerful. Now, combine that with breath sensing, and something even more powerful happens. When your breath starts to mirror his, you're not just connecting mentally. You're linking your nervous systems. You're creating a shared rhythm, a shared frequency. This is how trust gets built on a body level, not just a mental one. When you match his breath, his body starts to feel safe. And when his body feels safe, he opens up. He becomes more sensitive, more emotionally available, more present. And I promise you, that presence is what he is starving for, whether he knows how to say it or not. You don't need to make a big production of it. It's as simple as sitting close, letting your breathing slow down, and tuning into his. You'll start to notice the rise and fall of his chest. And instead of speeding up to get to the next thing, you just stay with him there. You inhale together, you exhale together, and suddenly, everything else melts away. That's when he starts to feel like you're not just two people in the same room, you're in the same experience. And it's wild what starts to happen next. When you hold that kind of space, you'll see his whole energy shift. His face might soften, his shoulders relax. You might even feel his heart rate change. Because something inside him goes, I don't have to perform right now. I don't have to figure this out. I'm just here. That is a gift most men rarely get. And when you give it to him, he'll never forget how it felt. This practice, this pairing of eye contact and breath, is also one of the most grounding things you can do. If you're someone who sometimes finds yourself disconnected during intimacy or lost in your thoughts, this brings you back fast. It reminds you this isn't a performance. This isn't a scene. This is real. This is happening. And it's sacred if you choose to make it that. And here's something you'll notice if you really stay with it. Emotions might start to rise. You might feel tears behind your eyes, or laughter, or heat in your chest. That's okay. That's not you being weird or dramatic. That's your body letting go of the guardrails. That's the part of you that's been holding so much finally saying, I don't have to hold it all together right now. And if you can let yourself go there, even for a few seconds, you'll create a moment of intimacy that's deeper than anything physical could ever be. One of the most beautiful things about this is that it doesn't require words. In fact, it works better without them, because there's a whole language that exists without talking. The way you breathe, the way your eyes soften, the way your energy opens, that speaks louder than anything you could say. And when he feels that, when he sees it in your eyes and feels it in your breath, something shifts in him too. He stops trying to lead with performance. He starts leading with presence. And now, you're not just physically close, you're energetically aligned. So, if you want to create a moment that blows his mind, not because it's wild or intense or perfect, but because it's real, start there, eyes open, breath slow. Let the moment stretch out, let it be quiet, let it be full. That's when the intimacy becomes unforgettable. That's when he'll think to himself, I've never felt anything like this before. That's when everything changes. If there's one thing I wish more people truly understood about creating unforgettable intimacy, it's this: slow everything way down. I know. Slowing down feels counterintuitive in a world that's obsessed with speed. We're always rushing to text back, rushing to finish the conversation, rushing through dinner, rushing through foreplay, rushing toward orgasm. And what's wild is that most of us don't even realize we're doing it. We've become so conditioned to believe that faster means more exciting, more intense, more impressive. But the truth, slowness is where there's real magic lives. Slowness creates space for sensation, for feeling, for presence. And when you slow things down, especially in intimacy, you give the moment time to expand. You give your body and his the chance to actually catch up with what's happening. That's when the electricity builds. That's when the tension becomes delicious. That's when he can't stop thinking about you. Because you weren't just another quick high. You were the slow, addictive burn that stayed with him. Let's be honest. We've all had those moments where everything is technically working. The touch is there, the rhythm is there, but something still feels flat, rushed. Like your body's going through the motions, but your mind is somewhere else. And part of that comes from moving too fast, mentally and physically. When you're already thinking about the next move, or the goal, or what he's expecting, you miss what's happening right now. And when you miss the moment, you miss him. Here's the thing about men that not enough people say out loud, just like you. He wants to feel. He might not always have the words for it. He might not even consciously realize it. But he's craving something that pulls him out of his head and into something deeper. And that depth doesn't come from adding more. It comes from slowing down, from stripping away the pressure, from giving him a moment to just breathe you in. Imagine this: you reach for his hand, not in a quick, casual way, but slowly. Like you're savoring the moment of contact. You let your fingers linger. You look into his eyes. You take a breath. That's one simple move, right? But because you slowed it down, it feels 10 times more intimate, 10 times more sensual. Now imagine if you brought that energy into everything. The way you touch his face, the way your lips meet, the way you move your body. Every inch becomes its own experience. Every pause becomes a kind of invitation. And he feels that. You know what happens when you move slowly? You give him time to notice you, to feel your energy, to notice how soft your skin is, how your breath changes when you're turned on, how your body responds to his presence. And the more he notices, the more attuned he becomes, the more present he becomes. And now you're not just sharing a moment. You're building something, a kind of tension that isn't just sexual. It's emotional. It's energetic. It's what makes the whole thing unforgettable. And look, I get it. Slowing down can feel vulnerable. It means being fully seen. It means not hiding behind performance or distraction. It means letting your breath be shaky, letting your body speak, letting silence happen without rushing to fill it. But that's exactly why it's so powerful. Because when you slow down, you show that you're not afraid to be in it. You're not just checking off boxes. You're experiencing every second, every breath, every glance, and inviting him to do the same. What's even more beautiful is that slowness gives you access to your own body in a deeper way. So many women move fast because they think that's what they're supposed to do. They move into his rhythm instead of creating their own. But when you slow it down, when you take the lead with your own pace, your own breath, your own presence, you begin to feel what actually turns you on. Not what's expected, not what you've done before, but what feels true right now, in this moment, with this person. That's where confidence lies, in knowing that you don't have to do more to be captivating. You don't have to rush toward orgasm or try to impress him with every move. You just have to be there, fully, completely, slowly, and he'll feel it. He'll feel the difference between rushed intimacy and conscious connection, and he'll want more of that. Because when you move slowly, you don't just seduce his body, you seduce his attention. And in a world that's constantly pulling our attention in every direction, someone who can slow him down is unforgettable. Someone who moves like every touch matters, like every moment deserves to be savored. That person leaves an imprint, one he won't be able to shake. So the next time you're in that moment, ask yourself, what would happen if I slowed this down? What would happen if I let go of the next step and just stayed here? In this breath, in this kiss, in this connection. Because I can tell you right now, when you slow it all down, that's when you speed up the intimacy. That's when he starts to feel something different, something rare, something real. And that's when you start to blow his mind. There's this moment in intimacy where most people limit themselves without even realizing it. They stay inside the physical, touching, kissing, moving from one act to the next. And there's nothing wrong with that. Physical connection is powerful. But if you want to create the kind of experience that leaves him completely disarmed, emotionally lit up, and wanting more of you, you have to go beyond just touch. You have to start playing with energy. And I don't mean anything mystical or out there. I mean your intention, your breath, your voice, your awareness. That invisible thread between you and him that gets activated when you stop doing things to each other and start experiencing energy with each other. Think about it like this: anyone can run their fingers down someone's back. That's easy. But when you trace your fingers down his back with the intention of drawing his awareness into his spine, when you breathe as you do it, when your energy is tuned in, when your mind is focused on feeling him rather than trying to get a reaction, that is a completely different experience. That's not mechanical. That's not just friction. That's a slow burn. That's the kind of moment that bypasses the surface and hits somewhere deeper. Sometimes, you don't even have to touch at all. Try this: hover your hand just above his skin. Don't make contact. Just stay there, close enough that he can feel the heat of your palm, the anticipation building. Move slowly. Breathe. Let him feel your presence without the touch. You'll notice how his body starts to become more alert, more sensitive, more aware. That's because energy is real. And it doesn't need contact to be felt. And most people are completely untrained in this. We've been taught that intimacy is about doing more, faster, harder, louder. But when you learn to use your energy, when you bring presence into the space between you and him, everything starts to change. He'll feel it. Even if he doesn't have the language for it. Even if he doesn't quite know what's happening. He'll feel something shift. And that something is what sets you apart. Your breath, for example, is one of the most powerful tools you have. The way you inhale when you're aroused, the way you exhale slowly in his ear, the way you hold your breath just for a second at the edge of a moment. He might not know why it's affecting him, but it does. Because your breath carries your arousal. Your breath carries your intention. And when you make it conscious, you pull him into your experience without even having to say a word. Same goes for your voice. Not just what you say, but how you say it. A whisper, a moan, a soft exhale. It doesn't have to be performative. In fact, it shouldn't be. It should be real. Because when your voice comes from a genuine place, when it's an expression of your actual experience, it becomes irresistible. It tells him that you're here, that you're in it, that you're feeling, and that gives him permission to drop deeper too. One of the most overlooked parts of energy play is awareness. Simply being aware of what you're creating in a moment shifts the entire dynamic. It's the difference between moving unconsciously through routine and choosing each movement with presence. You touch his arm and you know you're doing it. You let your lips hover near his skin and you're feeling every inch of space between you. That level of attention doesn't go unnoticed. It's felt. And it's rare. When you start playing with energy like this, you also begin to expand his capacity to feel. A lot of men haven't been encouraged to be sensitive, to be slow, to receive in a conscious way. But when you guide him there, not by teaching, not by telling, but by embodying. It opens something in him. It draws him out of his head and into his body. And from there, the connection becomes something entirely different. You don't need to. Wow. Him with tricks. You don't need to turn yourself into someone else. What moves him is you. When you're fully present, fully in tune, and willing to bring more than just your hands, you're bringing your energy. You're letting him feel you, not just touch you. That's when a single breath becomes more powerful than an entire night of going through the motions. That's when a pause before contact becomes more intimate than any position you could learn from a video. That's when you start to realize you don't need more. You need depth. And depth isn't created through speed or effort. It's created through stillness, through attention, through the way you move your energy through the space between you and him like it matters. Because it does. He may not have had a partner before who brings this kind of awareness into intimacy, who doesn't just aim to arouse him, but to awaken him. That's what makes it unforgettable. That's what makes him walk away from one night with you feeling like something shifted in him. Because when you play with energy, you don't just touch his body, you stir his soul. Let's talk about something that might be the most misunderstood and the most powerful element in deep, unforgettable intimacy: surrender. And I don't mean the kind of surrender that gets confused with weakness or passivity. I'm not talking about giving up your boundaries or becoming small to please someone. I'm talking about powerful surrender, conscious surrender, the kind that says, I trust myself so fully that I'm willing to let go of control and drop completely into this moment. That kind of surrender is magnetic. It doesn't scream. It doesn't chase. It draws in. It opens a space so intimate, so unguarded, that a man can't help but feel the pull of it. Because truthfully, most men are never invited into that space. They may have been in bed with women before, but that doesn't mean they've truly felt surrender. And when they do, when they feel you melt, not from need, but from the choicey, that does something to them. It invites them to rise. It calls out something deeper. It invites their own presence forward. But here's the key. Surrender doesn't start with him. It starts with ever you. It starts when you stop holding on so tightly to the idea of how things should go. It starts when you stop performing, stop managing the experience, stop trying to make it perfect. And I get it. That's terrifying sometimes. Especially if you're used to being in control. If you've been hurt before, if you've learned that you have to stay one step ahead to be safe. But real intimacy doesn't happen in control. It happens in the letting go, in the breath you didn't plan, in the way your body arches because it wants to, not because you think it's supposed to, in the moment where you stop thinking and you just feel him. The connection, the pulse of the moment moving through you. And the thing is, surrender isn't just about sex. It's about allowing yourself to be seen. It's about letting your guard down and saying, I don't need to hold everything together right now. And that's incredibly brave, because most of us were taught that vulnerability is dangerous. That showing too much, feeling too deeply, letting someone in, that's where you get hurt. So we harden. We protect ourselves with performance. We become good at giving, but terrible at receiving. But when you allow yourself to receive, not just physically, but energetically, you create a different experience for both of you. You give him something he didn't even know he was craving, the chance to feel you in your raw, real, feminine energy. And I don't mean feminine in the way Instagram talks about it. I mean your actual aliveness, your openness, your willingness to let your body respond, your willingness to soften, to feel. When a man feels a woman surrender into that space, something ancient gets activated in him. He may not even be able to explain it, but he suddenly becomes more present, more attuned, more grounded. He drops into his own depth. Not because you asked him to, not because you told him to, but because you invited him there. Your surrender becomes a mirror, showing him what it looks like to stop performing and actually feel. And this doesn't mean you become passive. In fact, it's the opposite. Surrender is an active state. It requires more awareness, not less. You're choosing it. You're consciously opening. You're attuned to your body, your breath, your emotions, and you're letting them move. You're not numbing out or disappearing. You're fully there. And that's what makes it powerful. A lot of women fear that if they surrender, they'll lose themselves. But what actually happens is the opposite. You come home to yourself. You stop holding your breath. You stop carrying the weight of trying to control everything. And in that exhale, in that softening, you create an experience that no amount of performance could ever replicate. And he feels it. He feels it in the way you moan without planning to. He feels it in the way your body leans in instead of pulling away. He feels it when you stop directing and start trusting the rhythm between you. That trust, that surrender, is intoxicating because it's rare and because it can't be faked. It tells him, without words, I feel safe enough with you to let go. And that is the highest compliment. That's what he remembers. That's what keeps him coming back, not just to your body, but to the feeling of being with you. Because it wasn't just about pleasure, it was about connection. It was about presence. It was about depth. So if you want to blow his mind, don't focus on the perfect move or the perfect line. Focus on your ability to drop the mask. Let yourself feel. Let yourself receive. Let yourself be in it, without rushing, without managing, without trying to make it look any particular way. Because when you let go from that place of strength and self-trust, you don't just create intimacy. You create something unforgettable. That's when he stops thinking and starts feeling you.